Our senior political and military analyst, Tulsi Gabbard, is joining us now. She gave a major speech. She also tweeted about it on President Trump's indictment. And Tulsi, you tweeted out that the Trump indictment undermines our democracy. Explain to people, because I think what you've really pointed to is it doesn't matter if you are a Trump supporter, a Trump voter, or what side of the issues you're on, that this is so dangerous to just the basics of what we have in our country, in the United States of America.
Yeah, thanks, Jordan. As I said in my speech there at the Western Conservative Summit, and what I put out in that tweet was really gets at the heart of our democracy, which is the rule of law. We have to be able to trust that if a law is going to be enforced, it's going to be enforced equally across the board, no matter who you are, your politics, or anything else. And in this instance of this indictment against Trump, the examples of unfairness and unequal treatment under the law are stark and glaring, and it's very telling that the mainstream media so easily dismisses these examples. Obviously, we look to Joe Biden, who has these documents, classified documents, in his home and in other locations in the country. Obviously, the Hillary Clinton emails, the arrogance of how Hillary herself responded to the Trump indictment with some kind of stupid meme to sell more merch, referencing her emails, is pretty offensive to our democracy, to the rule of law, and to voters. We have to remember here, I remember watching the entire statement that James Comey made at the conclusion of his investigation into the Hillary Clinton email server debacle. And as he was going through this, I was like, my gosh, this is really bad. What you have found, the evidence that was discovered, was really bad. And I, like most people in the country, was very surprised at the end of it when he said, but we have chosen not to prosecute. And that's really the difference here, is in this case, we have a Biden administration, and as much as they claim to celebrate and stand for democracy, what they're actually doing is, it looks a lot more like these authoritarian regimes we see in other parts of the world, where they direct the power of the state against political opponents. And it's exactly what we're seeing here in this unfair treatment under the law with Donald Trump. But also we've seen it in how this administration has gone after conservative organizations, has gone after pro-life organizations and individuals, has gone after Christians and others. You and your organization, the ACLJ, you know this better than most. So I just think it's important, as we look at this historic moment, it's important for us as Americans to recognize the threat to our democracy that's playing out right before our very eyes, and not buy into the nonsense that much of the propaganda media is selling.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, even who they choose to lead these investigations. I think Jack Smith specifically was chosen because he's kind of been a political hitman. But he also was involved in one of our cases, so we know well, and we had to stop even cooperating with the FBI, who was trying to actually help. They said they were going to help us. It's when the Tea Party groups were being, again, improperly targeted by the IRS. And then we uncovered an email from Jack Smith to the IRS. And in the email, he was trying to plan and figure out how to prosecute a couple of small, grassroots, American-run organizations for somehow campaign finance law, anything. He said basically anything they could find to criminally prosecute him so we can shut this movement down. And then here we have him years later, after he was working on that with Lois Lerner. Years later, here he comes again. He's tried to take down Bob McDonnell. He's tried to take down John Edwards. He's tried to take down Bob Menendez, because Bob Menendez was, opposed to the nuclear deal with Iran, and that did not sit well with the administration. So it looks sometimes bipartisan until you actually look into the weeds and see, oh, these were people who were standing up against Washington. They didn't like the Washington establishment, regardless of if they had an R or a D next to their name, or if they had neither, if they were like the Tea Party movement. And they specifically choose these kind of aggressive prosecutors to go out and try, as you said. I mean, it's so un-American to take out their political opponents.
It truly is un-American. When you look at some of the other examples that they have included in this indictment, lying to, the FBI or federal officials, immediately, how can we not look to James Clapper and John Brennan, who both lied under oath to Congress. There are many other examples as well within this administration and the Obama administration and those in the national security state who also lied to Congress. Have they gotten any accountability? Have they been charged with federal crimes and indicted? No, absolutely not. Not only have they not been indicted or charged or prosecuted, they are lifted up as experts in intelligence and national security all over MSNBC and the mainstream media. And so the double standard here is important, I think, for us all as Americans to recognize, regardless of our political party. And this is the thing that it boggles my mind that those and some of my friends on in the Democratic Party, that they are not seeing how dangerous this precedent is, that this historic event now sets a tone of some kind of new normal where whoever's in power can then use all of the powers and tools at their fingertips within the federal government and working with the media and with big tech and social media to go after their political opponents. That's not what this country has ever been about. It's not the vision that our founders had for us. And it is frankly something that can be turned around against any one of us as Americans. There are so many laws in this country, so many laws. We're in a position now where the government can find the law broken or the crime to go after the individual that they have targeted. And that's a very, very dangerous place for all of us.
I think when people realize the breadth of the Espionage Act and that you can be charged under an Espionage Act for not committing espionage, but at all, but for just having a paper, you're present, you're trying to negotiate back and forth with what are my papers, what are your papers, and you didn't do it quick enough, so we're going to charge you with 37 different felony counts. With an interesting call coming in, I want to take it, Tulsi. Warren in Idaho online too. Hey, Warren.
Hey, thanks for taking my call, guys. And Tulsi, thank you for your service. What can we, the people, do besides just at the voting box, like grassroots, to help bring these people accountable and to push them to get this stuff done before we run out of time? And I know supporting the ACLJ, we support you all that we can in prayer and everything.
Well, I think, Tulsi, voting is the number. So best thing that Americans can do to remove bad actors is voting. But I think that the second part is we have to keep the pressure on the people that we get elected, especially if they're people that we wanted elected, to say, okay, you better come through with what you said you were going to do.
Yes, two things, and I'll be brief. Vote, 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 and use your voice. Don't underestimate the power of your voice, because you might think, I'm just one person. Well, guess what? If we all lift up our voices, not for one party or another, but for freedom, democracy, and fairness, we can and will have an impact, and it will create that pressure for those who are in positions of power to do the right thing by the Constitution.
Tulsi, as always, we appreciate you joining us, our senior political and military analyst.